Good afternoon, everybody. Just completed reading the book All Quiet on the Western Front. Ooh. It's a war novel about World War I and the trench warfare that went on between Germany and France. And the main character that Erich wrote into this, his name is Paul Berman. He's a German young guy, about 19 years old, and he has, I don't know, a dozen friends or so that he's patrolling around with. Of course, they're in a much larger platoon, a much larger unit. I think there's like 150 guys of them total, but it really focuses on about a dozen or so people, okay, and tells the story from their perspective. Now, up until the time that this book was written, war was seen as something as being romantic. It was something that a young man should look up to, you know, that to fight for one's country is the utmost and highest honor, that war makes men great, that war can make, you know, a man into a hero. You know, this whole idea, you know, that war is a positive thing. And the writer, Erich, he wanted to push back on that idea quite a bit. He wanted to show the realistic side, the realistic, brutal nature of war in this book. Now, he's a great writer, and his perspective, I would give it a lot of credibility because he himself went through World War I. He was a veteran. He was injured many times in battle, and obviously he himself wanted to show the more realistic side or realistic nature of war and what people go through if they have to fight in battle. All right, so one of the major themes that we have here is that war is hell. Whether you're at the front line or you're back in the hospital, perhaps you're just getting leave of duty, you're on leave, that's what I should say. Can't talk today. So whether you're on leave or you're having meal in the mess hall back away from the front line, there's a very heaviness to what's going on because people are dying all around them, and it's very ugly. The very opening pages of the book, you know, one of Paul's best friends from youth, you know, has a significant injury. Paul's visited him in the makeshift hospital a couple of times, and his friend is slowly getting worse. Paul knows he's going to die. His friends knows he's going to die, but yet they have to be by his side. You know, they want to. They don't have to, but they want to be by his side. They want to give him as much comfort as he can, and try to show their support while he's going through this difficult time of his life is slowly going out. It's an emotional book. I mean, it really grabs you, it grips you, and it shows, at least it did to me, you know, the very nature of what a soldier has to go through in order to survive a battle. Paul, the character in this book, he makes frequent references to becoming like an animal or becoming like a beast when he's in the trenches and fighting, you know, in order to survive. So civilization wants to progress. You know, Paul, when he's in school, he's taught poetry, he's taught the sciences and literature, and then he is enlisted and he starts going through the hell of war, and he realizes that humanity really isn't progressing, especially when war is happening, when nations are fighting against nations, when people are killing people, that progress is all stopped. And in fact, it reverts itself back to this animalistic, you know, viewpoint that people have to have in order to survive war. So quite a contrast to the many historical perspectives about war, you know, how it makes men into great heroes. And I'm not going to argue with that because I do think that there are men that come out of war better people, and I do think that there are heroes, obviously, in some of these wartime stories that we got. But for the most part, you know, this writer's just trying to say that just surviving is hard enough. You know, trying to survive a battle with your sanity is hard enough. You know, go through war. So, romantic idea of war is pushed back upon. There's more of a realistic approach to what's going on in these battles, but also there is what I would call a naturalistic vantage point. that the writer's trying to bring out elements of the natural world, so to speak, that plays itself out through chance, random occurrences that occur. One example is Paul. He's in this trench. I hope I'm remembering this right. He's in this trench and he's with some guys, and he wants to get over to the next trench so he can, I guess, check on the guys that are over there because they're newbies, they're new recruits. So he crawls out of the trench, goes into the next trench, and a bomb goes off in the trench that he was just at and kills everybody. And Paul says he's lucky to be alive. That's just one idea, that it's the natural occurrences of the universe, this random chance that dictates some of the outcomes that happen in battle. Paul didn't have any sort of foreknowledge to know that the bomb was going to go off in that trench that he was in, so he needed to leave. It was just simply, as he said, luck that he survived. So, if you read this novel, you've had this novel, you certainly will see elements of naturalism in this book. Okay. I did want to bring out the fact that some of the most I guess I should say, I wanted to bring out that in some of the places where the most hellish deaths occur, we're not on the battlefield at all. They're actually in the hospital. And it just kind of shows you that even in a place of safety, the war still takes lives. It's not necessarily the direct bullet to the head that kills the person, but it's the germs that infect the person while they're in the hospital that has them get killed off. So, again, this is just taking a very realistic viewpoint that war is not something to be glamorized, but it's really something that no man truly survives. Because even the people that did survive the wars, they have the memories, they have the scars on their hearts, which they have to carry for the rest of their lives. And I think that this author is trying to say that war robs the youth of their lives, that they can't really be truly who they were going to be before this war would have taken place, or if it would not have taken place, but it changes them to the point where they're just different people. All right, so this book also highlights the intimate connections that these men have with each other. When Paul's about ready to go on leave for 2 weeks, it hits him that he realizes that he may never see his friends again. And that really sobers him deeply. It emotionally changes him, even to the point where he's back at home and he doesn't even want to talk about the war because he's, in one respect, worried about what's going to be happening to his comrades, his friends, but also the fact that he doesn't want to think about that they might die. He wants to think that they're getting by. So he's anxious kind of to get back up to the front and help them out because it's something that they're going through together. Unfortunately, people that don't go through war don't really fully understand that perspective, the intimate level that men can have with each other. That once you go through experiences like that, it's beyond words. I guess I would allude it to the fact that, like me and my wife, we have a deep relationship. We've been married for 20 years, and, we can sit in a restaurant and kind of know each other's thinking. I can start a sentence and she can, kind of know where I'm going with it and kind of end it. We know each other that well. And this novel kind of hits on that men that are going through these experiences, these horrific experiences of war, they're going to have this deep-rooted, intimate relationship with each other, and it's almost deeper than blood bond. Because, when Paul goes home, he doesn't really feel connected with his community, even his family. He feels more connected with his brothers on the battlefield than he does with his own family that he grew up with or raised him. So, pretty strong message from that perspective, okay? The book is written straightforward. It's written well, simple language, but it's also a gritty novel. So be prepared. If you decide to read this book, you might be blown away by what some of these war scenes that is described in this book. It's brutal. It is it can rip your heart out, to really think about what some of these men went through. Anyway, hope you read it. It is a classic novel. I can see why it's a classic novel. I invested my time in reading, and I hope you do the same. It's a very good book.